Ever since the beginning of civilization, people would gather and listen to the stories of their elders, tales filled with history, knowledge, and important life lessons. Eventually, a need was developed to somehow preserve and pass on these messages to the future generations, as if to say, I was here too, and this is what I learned and valued. Furthermore, through history, with the rise of religious influences, education became more common, but accessible only to a limited amount of privileged people, such as bishops, priests, nobilities, and royalties.
This is where art comes in as a tool to make certain subjects more understandable to greater masses. Biblical depictions painted on walls of churches are a good example for this custom, as the majority of people were illiterate, and this allowed them to get a clear grasp on the messages that were being spread. As the famous saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Another instance of art being used to express one's state of being in hopes of creating a sense of community and reassurance in the times of hardship was a quote World War II soldiers would write on walls. It stated Hillary was here alongside with a simple sketch of a bald figure with a large nose peeking over a ledge. The motivation behind this simple early graffiti was to create a motive of connection for these soldiers, connecting them among foreign land and making themselves seen.
But what is graffiti considered today? What distinguishes it from other art forms, and where do we draw the line between art and vandalism? What is the purpose and idea behind this widely spread artistry practice? Today, we are here to answer these questions.
The meaning of the word graffiti derives from the Greek word grapheme, meaning to scratch, draw, or write all forms of inscription on walls. Graffiti as we know it today did not begin as an art form at all, but rather as a form of text-based urban communication that developed its own networks. Rather than submitting to the criteria of valuation upheld by the institutionalized art world, early graffiti writers developed an entirely new and separate art world, based on their own aesthetic standards developed within the community.
The rise of graffiti culture originates around 1970s with the popularization of hip-hop music and street subcultures among Black and Latino neighborhoods of New York City. Graffiti artists were called taggers because they would write a stylized version of their signature on city surfaces, with the goal of tagging as many locations as possible. This created an overlap of these artists being both known as minor celebrities while simultaneously remaining in the shadow of anonymity. We cannot exactly specify where and who were the first people to do this, but it is known that a few artists appeared around New York City and Philadelphia around this time. They went by the names Taki183, Julio204, and Cornbread. Soon, as many others started to follow their example, art styles became more creative and complex due to artists' wish to stand out and be more recognizable.
Subway cars and trains allowed artist tags and names to be seen by a larger audience, so they became a major graffiti target. Big colorful images traveling across your viewpoint, blurred by the train's motion and the eerie streetlights, whether it be in a subway tunnel or across a bridge, creates a quite impactful impression. Graffiti is usually made using a marker, spray paint cans, aerosol products, regular paint, or even tools for carving into metal or glass surfaces. There are several basic types of graffiti writing styles that usually represent the author's name or a simple word that sends a message.
To start off with, the tag. Only lines that form a signature or a graffiti word. Hollow, simplifying the letters to form a bubbly shape with only the outline but no shadow.
Throw up. Bubble letters filled in with one color then outlined with the second. Usually include shadow effects. Straight letter. All about readability and allowing people to understand the message with add-ons of style coming second.
Piece. Can be single and readable or super detailed and unrecognizable. Roller. Using a paint roller to apply paint to a building from an overhanging position.
Stomper. Simplified piece, letters thickened so they can be represented at huge scales. Blockbuster. Blocky square style, straight and linear font.
Stencils. They allow an image to be installed quickly, minimizing the chance of encountering authorities. It is also reusable and repeatable. Stickers. Artwork on a sticker, a method of getting recognized.
The main idea behind graffiti and urban art is that art should be accessible rather than kept under a lock inside museums, galleries, and private collections. It is to be seen by everyone and owned by no one. Due to its illegal manner, it is constantly exposed to the risk of being removed or covered by authorities or other artists. Therefore, the non-permanence of its nature makes the work more meaningful and appreciated. Mostly, it is being used to express artists' beliefs, opinions, and views, ranging from politics, environmentalism to consumerism and consumption. Although many just practice it for its artistic purpose, without engaging in any social concerns.
To some people, breaking into property and painting it might seem a little inconsiderate, but in reality, the 30 square centimeters of your brain are trespassed upon every day by teams of marketing experts. Graffiti is a perfectly proportionate response to being sold unattainable goals by a society obsessed with status and infamy. Graffiti is the site of an unregulated free market getting the kind of art it deserves.
We have managed to meet up with a local graffiti artist who's been in the scene since 2016. He told us that he began to engage with his art form when he was about 15 years old, after Banksy's documentary Exit Through the Gift Shop sparked an interest within him. He introduced us to some Pulas as well as other Croatian solo artists and graffiti groups, also referred to as crews. In 2017, alongside with a few friends of his, W8A Crew was formed. It consisted of 6 members: Kiru, Pale, Šok, Crooks, Corpse, and himself, Zed. Currently, Zed and Crooks are the only semi-active members. Zed explained that the name W8A didn't have a specific meaning in its abbreviation, but that 8 was simply his favorite number. So they agreed that it would represent their friendship and art's power to connect people.
Pula's graffiti scene flourished during the 2005 to 2015 period. Most of the original pieces were unfortunately either crossed out, painted over, or have faded away. A famous Pula's graffiti crew, HK, also known as Harakirsi, Hood Kids, Hello Kitties, and so on, consisted of artists by the names Etik, Show or Ozone, Omus, etc. Much of their work is located on Pula's Graffiti Hall of Fame, more specifically Boulevard. Another crew, originally from Rijeka, that is also active around Istria and Kvarner, is VS, meaning Vandal Skandal, consisted of Bem, Shae, and others. A crew less active around Pula is Kids Crew, whose members are Mops, Rays, and another artist who doesn't have a tag. A more recently formed group is Style Killers, or SK, with their members being Noke, His, Seek, and many more. HBID, who has members all over Croatia, often awakes jealousy and hatred amongst other artists because of their graffiti placements being in extreme locations such as tall buildings or bridges that seem unapproachable. A couple examples of a British street artist, Nathan Bowen, can be seen around town. Abstract-looking lines and scribbles that represent his demons are depicted on small ceramic tiles, pillars, and a wooden board.
Graffiti culture is mainly male-predominated field, but there are also some consisted of only women, such as WOW, or Walls of Women, based in Rijeka, whose famous member is Tigrica. Football fan groups, such as the Moni Pula, have murals all around city surfaces, but because of their beliefs, some people see them as controversial and may have a negative perception of them. Regardless of that, their murals are artistically good-looking. Some other Croatian graffiti and street artists include Lonac, Lunar, Oko, Mosk, Miron Milic, Mane May, and many others. So now we ask you the final question. What do you think? Is it art or vandalism?